Who's ready for an adventure?
Hello, Bushman.
Well, hello there. Good morning for breakfast.
Why are you doing this?
To separate the wants from the needs. To show that it can be done. And to build mental strength and character.
What is the highest point of your survival? What has been the highest point of your survival?
Hard to say. The most exciting point was probably on day 7 when I caught the biggest fish so far, which is a 31.5-inch pike. I hadn't caught fish for a few days and I was pretty hungry. That might be that. Yeah.
And then what about the lowest, Brian?
Lowest point was day 2 after the first night of terrible insects and the leaky tarp. And then day 2, the bugs were still really bad and they were just eating me alive. And I was just thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, I've got myself in way over my head. I'm out here for 2 months. And I just kind of realized you don't make the time go any faster. You just have to wait it out, take it one day at a time. So I did what I could for that day and moved forwards.
Where'd you get that bagel? I didn't know they grew in the wild.
It's a bagel tree. It's fruiting late June, early July, fortunately.
So everything variety?
Yeah. A few subspecies.
So you're saying to us how there's different needs you need to fulfill? So you kind of have to break things down to wants and needs. What would you say is like the number one need and that is the biggest challenge to obtain?
Number one need would be water, but that's not really a challenge just with the lake there. The number one need that takes up the most of my time is definitely food. Because it's easy enough to get some food, but to get enough to sustain yourself takes a considerable amount of effort. The plants aren't going anywhere. So cattail shoots are really easy to get, but they don't last very long in your stomach. Rhizomes are relatively easy to get. They take longer, but they give you more bulk. But it's the pursuit of fish that I spend a lot of time on. The pursuit of protein. So yeah, the pursuit of food would be the need that I spend the most time on.
So in the past you've done a survival trip where you didn't bring anywhere, or you didn't have an easy time getting water. Can you talk about that?
Well, I have a water purifier.
I'm talking about...
Makes things a lot easier. Talk about not having water?
What's it like to not have easy access to water?
It's terrible. Everything is more difficult. Like working hard, you sweat, you breathe, you lose water, and it takes a lot of energy out of you. So when you can't put it back in right away, it's definitely very debilitating. Fortunately, not an issue on this one. I figured I had enough obstacles already.
Yeah.
Didn't want to throw that one in there as well.
So for your shelters, you're making a tarp style, what'd you call that?
A-frame?
An A-frame. But obviously you're still exposed, you need ventilation, and you really can't keep all the bugs out.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with like your setup, or Do you think the bugs are an unavoidable obstacle?
Up here, yeah, the bugs, you can't run, you can't hide if you don't have a tent. That's just one of the factors up north. It's there's no rest, no breaks, no mercy from the mosquitoes and the black flies and the deer flies. And that was one of the things that I accepted and one of the challenges that I wanted to take on coming up here. So there are ways that you learn to cope with it. You can't eliminate the problem, but you can reduce how much it affects you. So things like finding the wind has probably been the single most important factor in controlling insects. Building the proper shelter, so a low enclosed shelter that's not fully enclosed is going to trap heat and it's going to trap insects. So if you can afford to, have a high breezy shelter, or a few nights when they were particularly bad, I didn't even stay in the shelter. I just slept out on the rocks because that's where they were thinnest. And some nights they're just bad enough that you're not going to really get sleep. And on those days, I just did a lot of napping the next day.
That was my next question. What is your sleep pattern like?
It very much depends on the weather and the insects at night. So it's if it's a bad insect night, I don't sleep very much at all. I'll sleep a lot more during the day. Generally speaking, I'll sleep at night and then nap during the heat of the day. Yeah, it changes quite a bit, like I said, quite variable depending on conditions. But a mosquito-y day would be up at dawn or before dawn, out active, in early to mid-afternoon napping, wait until after dusk, like after it gets dark when they thin before I go into my shelter, and then try to get some sleep, spend usually like hour or two swatting before I'm able to fall asleep. So by the time I fall asleep, it's often after midnight and then back up at dawn. On the nights when they are not bad, I'll be in the shelter around dusk, and I can sometimes sleep as late as 10 o'clock, which I take the opportunity when I can because it doesn't come often.
What is the single most important piece of survival equipment?
Cell phone.
Bam! Swiss Army knife. Use this many times every day. Just mostly the blade, but the saw as well. Very, very useful to have.
We're talking about function versus fashion. What have you noticed, or what have you discovered to have more functionality than you originally expected when you brought it along? As far as your gear is concerned. Or even techniques, like some sort of fire technique or that kind of thing.
More functional than expected.
Yeah.
What have you used more than you thought?
Or for different things than you expected.
Bucket?
Having a pot is very useful. Having a grill is extremely useful. There are all sorts of ways that you can cook over fire. For boiling water or cooking, I like to have the leaning stick.
Yeah.
That's an easy good one if you don't have a grill. Yeah, a grill was a pleasant surprise when I got to this site, and I do expect that my next site might not have it. I'm planning on having at least a few nights without a grill.
You should bring it.
No, I'll leave it behind. That's part of the challenge. And I've done plenty of camping without grills, but they make it really, really nice to cook on, and especially the way I've been cooking my fish, which is just leave the skin on, toss it straight on the grill.
Yeah.
So the skin burns, but the meat inside is good.
You cut the head off?
Yeah. Cut the head off, cut the fins off, remove the guts.
Why? Fish cheek meat is delicious.
I did eat the cheek meat at the first bite that I caught, but there's not a whole lot of meat there, so unless it's a big fish, it's not fucking bite the head. Yeah.
Who on your trip has caught the best fish?
That would have to be me. I caught a 31.5-inch, probably 6 or 7 pound pike. The best bass, however.
Got away because Trevor and Brian.
Yeah, Trevor caught a very nice bass yesterday. 19-inch smallmouth. Don't have a scale, so we couldn't get a weight on it.
Looking pretty thin.
No, it's at
Probably
least
It was one of those
Probably
tall-
like 2 pounds.
It was a long, lanky fucker.
It was a real snake. Might have been a pike actually. 19-inch pike caught by Trevor.
Just trying to be a bass. He's a cross-dresser.
Yeah.
There's a small cat that can go on. Bat.
would you recommend taking a dog as a companion?
The companionship is nice, for sure. Keeps me more sane than I otherwise would be. But there are times when he's a burden. He's essentially a dependent, and he needs to be walked every day. Roy's very much a dog of habit, so he needs his walks. He won't go to the washroom otherwise often. So on a windy day like today, if it was just me here, I might stick around camp if I was well supplied for food and conserve my energy. But since I have him, I'm going to have to get in the canoe and solo, battle the wind and get to the mainland to walk him so that he can do something that he could, in theory, just do here on the island, which is frustrating and very annoying. I also feel bad for him sometimes because he doesn't understand the whole insect situation. For example, he thinks going in the shelter will keep him safe from the insects. So when it's dusk and they're thickest, he kept wanting to go into the shelter. However, if you go in the shelter then, they follow you and they get stuck there, and then they don't get out. So now instead of getting away from the insects, you've brought them in with you, and you've made sure that they're going to be with you all night. So there are definitely inconveniences, but overall I would say yes, it's good having him here, good having the company, even though he doesn't exactly pull his weight. He's a good listener, if not a good talker, and it's just nice to have someone or something else around.
Is it convenient to have someone to blame for your downfalls?
Next question.
So your next site is where? Your next place you're gonna go to?
I'm not giving locations. It's
Okay.
2 lakes north of here.
Okay.
That'll be the next place I stay for a period of time anyways. I might have a layover or two at the north of the end of this lake.
So can you then talk about, first of all, what you expect? Because you were saying that in coming here, you had an idea of what was at this site.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're going to this new site. You're not too sure about the edibles or about the fish or what kind of stuff. What you expect, and then how you might have to troubleshoot or readjust your plan if you don't find what you're looking for.
I have been to this lake before, so I have an idea. I haven't scouted it as thoroughly as I had this one though. So I know there are pike and bass in that lake. I know there are snapping turtles, which are fair game, and I'm really hoping to get one of those, a little variety with the meat. But in terms of edibles, I really don't know what there are. In terms of being able to plan for that, I'm going to be bringing a good supply of rhizomes with me, and that's the major benefit of having the extra rhizomes. Those are something that will keep and that will travel, so I can bring those with me, and if I get absolutely nothing else, I'll still have something to eat.
What is the goal of your videography of this trip?
I want to share the experience, something that I can look back on when I'm 80 years old and remember. Something that other people can watch and enjoy, maybe get a cheap laugh here and there, learn a thing or two, and basically see that these things can be done. It's, I guess, a learning experience for a lot of people, and it's just entertainment value for myself and for others as well.
Did you bring the camera into the woods as you were throwing up? Because that would have been good footage.
I did not, though I did add a little addendum this morning to make note of that. Yeah.
So for fishing, you're finding that you're not going too far from camp to save energy.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your most most successful lure or approach to fishing?
Worm harness, for sure. Worm harness with mussel as bait. Live bait it beats any lure because you don't have to trick fish into thinking that they can eat it. It's legitimately something that they can eat and they want to eat it. So the versatility of the worm harness is nice because you can get everything from a 5-inch perch to a 30-inch pike. You can get walleye, you can get bass. If it swims and eats, then in this lake anyways, then it'll go for a worm harness. And in terms of location, there's a nice spot, a weed bed, flat, probably 4 to 10 feet, ranging depths, just north of my site, and it's a little bit sheltered from the wind if we get a south wind. So that requires minimal effort to get there, and it's had very nice output for me.
So Brian, you're relying a lot on plants
Yeah.
for edibles, obviously, and fish protein. Can you tell us what your favorite food has been, and also what your least favorite food has been, and then what your staples are?
Sure. Multi-part question.
People gotta know.
It's early, Jer. Keep it simple. My favorite food, also I would say my most pleasant surprise, was orange bolete mushroom. So that was a new mushroom that I had not. Actually, we might need to boil up some more water for that.
I'm gonna pour cold water in, but
Gotcha. A new mushroom that I had not identified before, orange bolete. I picked it, brought it back, identified it as edible. It had dried for a few hours by then in the sun, and I broke it into pieces and put it over the fire to roast it, and it was absolutely delicious. I was shocked by how good it was. When I took my first bite, it was just a tiny little sliver,
yeah.
and I actually did a double take. It was like, that is incredible. And yeah, so that's my thank you, sir. My favorite food so far. The strawberries were also a very nice little addition to the diet, but I'd have to give the nod to the orange bolete on that one. Least favorite was probably a moth that I ate in my shelter one night.
On purpose?
Yeah, they're very high in fat. Grizzly bears will actually eat them in vast quantities before hibernating.
Yeah.
Sounds like Bran.
So, and it struggled on the way down, and I could feel that. And so that was the worst. But aside from
I don't have much water,
aside from the moth, the freshwater mussels are the food that I am constantly seeking to avoid by going after fish. So yeah, moth is the least favorite. Freshwater mussels are the probably second least favorite. Staples, definitely cattails. Cattails have been huge for me, both the shoots and the rhizomes. So I'm very glad that there's a decent supply on this lake.
So for the eating, it seems like you get it, you find it, and if it doesn't need to be processed or cooked, you just fire it down the gullet, right? You don't bring things back and like make a little salad arrangement?
Well, yes and no. Thanks, sir. If I'm out fishing and I come across some cattail shoots, I'll eat them then and there. I will also pick a few dozen to bring back to camp, just so I have that supply out there ready. So I will bring things back, but I won't make a meal. Like, I don't sit down to a platter of fish, rhizomes,
Yeah.
and shoots, or dandelions or whatever. Like, it's, I eat this and then I eat that and then I eat this and then I eat that. It's not, I don't have meals. I've had a couple exceptions where I made some soups, which were good. But generally speaking, it's, I eat one thing at a time as I come across it.
Tell us about the soups.
The first one was a soup of fish, wild carrot, both the roots and the leaves. The leaves had an interesting flavor. They're not super great, but it added bulk to it. Then also cattail rhizomes and shoots, and that was a decent soup. So I did that because I had the carrots, which need to be boiled anyways. Also, I didn't have a ton of fish that day, so just having the extra fluid really padded out the meal and made it feel more substantial. I did a similar thing another time without the wild carrots, so it's just fish, cattail rhizomes, cattail shoots, and that was all right, but it was nothing special. The first one was definitely more flavorful, with the addition of the carrots and the bulk of the carrot tops.
If you knew that you had to winter here, what would you do? How would you provide food for yourself?
You would have to kill a moose or something like that.
So you're saying that you would have to kill a moose?
You would have a very hard time making do without something substantial like a moose or a bear or a deer or several of them.
Would you only eat meat the whole winter?
No, you could. You'd have to be constantly thinking about getting up a food store for winter. So you'd be gathering berries and drying them. You'd be gathering carrots and drying them. I don't know how long rhizomes last. Well, for myself, 2 weeks has been the magic number, so they wouldn't last the winter. But you can harvest them through the winter, so you get an idea of where you could cut through the ice and get an easy harvest, relatively easy harvest. It would not be a pleasant experience.
You have to go in the water? So you're really putting yourself at risk of exposure.
You would, but if you did it properly, you might be able to get like a hooked branch or something like that and find a soft substrate. I did it in clay, and then I did it in like a silty detritus sort of substrate. The latter, you could maybe get like a branch and like hook down, pull it up without actually getting in the water. The clay though, there's no way you'd be able to get it without getting in the water, and at that point you'd be putting yourself in danger. Yeah, tons of respect for the native populations that were here. I don't know how they did it. It must have been a constant work all the time, and just a lot of effort into it.
I got a question with that.
Also, yeah, absolutely. But also, they would have a much more thorough knowledge of the plants of the land. So, yeah, you just it would be the death of me, I'm sure. At this point, I wouldn't have the knowledge. Especially the winters here are extremely harsh. Question?
You said you have a lot of respect for the native people who would have lived here, and you came out here doing this on your own, right? If you had a team and you had a group of people working together, kind of see how bringing a whole society of people together can actually get this stuff done.
Absolutely.
Do you think that if you had a team of people, it would be a different story?
It would definitely help, and just having the two of you guys here has been really nice in terms of the partitioning of labor. Like having to do it all is very time consuming and very challenging. Just even something as simple as like making that soup. So in order to do that, I had to cut up the carrots, wash them. Same with the rhizomes. I had to cook the pike and then break it up into pieces and put it in the soup. I had to get a fire going, I had to boil the water, and then I had to maintain it. And I'm trying to do all these things at once. And like it's, especially cooking over a fire can be, when the conditions aren't right, like you get a bit of rain or you get some wind, just the simple act of maintaining a cook fire can be a real pain. Yeah, you have to fight with it, you have to maintain it at a constant level, and if you're trying to multitask and doing all these other things, then it can be a real challenge. So just having you guys around, so you have someone go gather firewood, you have someone cutting up food, and then you have someone tending to the fire. Just having a few different people makes a huge difference, makes things a lot easier. And the social aspect as well. Something I haven't touched on yet, but it is absolutely crucial, is the mentality of the whole situation. You have to, I would say, Trevor, you asked the most important piece of survival equipment. It was the Swiss Army knife. The most important tool in a survival toolbox, so to speak, is it has to be the mentality. Because if you don't have the mentality, if your morale doesn't stay up, if you don't have the versatility and the adaptability, then you're going to fail. If you have the mentality that no matter what happens, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to pull through this, I'm going to make it work, then chances are a heck of a lot better that you're going to end up succeeding in doing what you're trying to do. So to have other people around to kind of pick you up when you're down, to help out when you are in a weakened state, like Jer did with me last night, just having those things is crucial. So absolutely, I imagine the communities were very tight knit, and they really depended on one another. And yeah, like I said, having you guys here has been great. It's been made things a lot nicer for me.
I softened you up a bit though.
Yeah. Well, it's time to get back to reality now. Once you guys head
vacation's
off.
over, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Monday for everyone tomorrow.
Yep.
Do you see the next, we're at the halfway point-ish, right? Today's day 26?
26.
Okay. So, pretty soon we're at the halfway point. Do you see July being, and I don't want to say easier, but
I think I see, well, sorry.
yeah, that's my question. Do you think?
I see sailing being smoother. Part of that is, again, the mentality, keeping the thinking positive. But at the same time, we are now into bass season. I have been releasing walleye that are between 43 and 60 centimeters. I have been releasing bass. I've passed up shots on grouse that I could have had. So I've been following the laws, and that is something that is absolutely essential that we do these days, because if you abuse your resources, future generations won't be able to enjoy them. Respect the laws. They're there for a reason. But now it's bass season. Bass is a species of fish that I've traditionally targeted, so I'm a lot more comfortable going for bass than I would be for walleye. Pike I'm familiar enough with, and I've been living well off them, but having that extra option now, I'm confident that I will be having an easier time getting protein. Also, the berries are starting to fruit now, and that's going to be a really nice addition to my diet. I'm worried about shoots a little bit. I'm hoping the cattail shoots will still be good to go. I know that there's another stage in the cattail life cycle that is edible, and I'm looking forward to that. I've never tried it, but that should be coming up soon.
What's that?
I'm not entirely sure. It's like the flowers, maybe. Yeah, it's a piece at the top that you snap off, and you can eat it like corn on the cob.
Oh,
But-
the actual like the classic cattail look.
That's the fluff. So that's
Okay.
it must be the flowers. So the fluff, the brown hot dog looking thing is that's the seeds with the fluff, and so that must be after it goes to seed. So presumably it's the flowers then that you'd be eating.
Those are actually wild corn dogs.
Wild corn dogs growing in their natural
Sure,
environment.
just put some mustard on it.
Yeah,
and
good to
eat it
go.
off
Are
the
you
stick.
thinking of that exact meme that I'm thinking?
Yeah. But no, I do anticipate that sailing will be a little smoother from here on out. There are still a number of edibles that have not come into prime. Also mushrooms. I'm really hoping that as the season progresses, there'll be more mushrooms. As I said, orange bolete was a very pleasant surprise, and if I were here in the fall, there would be that much more, because you get into August, September, October, you get a lot more mushrooms. So yes, I'm thinking that as things continue, I'm hopeful that there'll be a lot of new opportunities presenting themselves. There might be some opportunities that pass, but I'm hopeful that in general the door will open wider for food. And I am also really hoping that as the season goes on, the insects will thin out as well.
Yeah. Just cover yourself in cedar branches. I don't know why they need a shelter. Have you been bringing books along to reference edibles?
Yes. I have two field manuals from Lone Pine. One for edible and medicinal plants of Canada. One is mushrooms of Canada, and so that has edible and non-edible. It's not a complete guide, as there are an incredible number of mushrooms, but it's thorough enough. It has a good number of edible mushrooms, common edibles, and the ones that you're not going to mistake for something that's really nasty. I also have one course manual from an edible plants course that I took. Haven't dipped into that one as much, but I do have a couple of field guides for those. And this is the sort of thing where I have been referencing a few plants and mushrooms. I'd like to get to the point, well, I am now, I would say, at the point where I can get by without them, but I would be missing a few opportunities. So they just allow for me to learn, which is important. This is another, back to Trevor's question about why am I out here, or why am I recording this. I guess it would be why I'm out here, because it's you can learn something by being a weekend warrior. You live in the city, you do your job, and then on the weekend, and you watch YouTube videos during the week. On the weekends, you get out there and you try things. But actually being out here, immersing myself in the environment, I feel like I'm learning a lot more, and I'm learning things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. So by actually immersing myself, I'm learning a lot more. Just general, I'm learning a lot more, and I'm able to add those new plants and mushrooms to my repertoire.
What is that mushroom fungus?
These are a couple of bracket fungi. So those are used. I haven't had the chance to experiment with those yet, but they're used for fire purposes. So this is tinder fungus. You can get a little ember burning in that, and it'll burn for several hours, so it basically holds an ember. And then the other one, I'm a little confused. I think they might both be a form of tinder fungus. I'm not really sure, but I think the other one you can use as a fireboard for friction fires, or you can also use for the same purpose in terms of preserving an ember. So those are things that I hope to demonstrate later on.
Have you been sick or gotten sick from anything that you've eaten so far? Aside from
this
food?
Aside from this weekend, no.
I guess you wouldn't find yourself in a situation where you have to try something that you're not familiar with. Do you have enough food around here?
And I have my safety nets as well. So generally speaking, I don't. If I don't know what it is, I won't try it. Or if I'm not reasonably certain what it is, I won't try it. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you have no choice, then there are some guidelines that I would find. Like for mushrooms, if it's a bolete, I would feel comfortable trying it. Boletes are, you have your gill mushrooms, where on the underside there are gills, and then boletes are pores rather than gills, and those are generally edible. So that's a guideline there that I would follow. I've also heard for plants, a good guideline is if you pick it, rub it on your arm, wait a few hours, see if you react. If you don't react, then you rub it on your neck. If you don't react, rub it in your mouth. If you don't react to that, then try eating. So like there are ways to go about it in a safer fashion, but for my own purposes, I have the safety nets and I have the resources, so I'm not going to be trying things that are going to put me at risk, undue risk.
So if you're hungry, wait 6 hours by rubbing it on various parts of your body and then eat that one plant. Did you do that with several plants at a time?
Maybe. Probably not. You could do like the arm steps, but you're rubbing them in your mouth, several in your mouth, which one do you react to?
Well, yeah. We get to the one.
Do you have any safety procedures or contingencies built into your plan right now? Because you are out here by yourself, minimal provisions.
I do have a spot emergency device. So that is something you can use to send an OK signal, or you can use it to send an SOS signal. You can send it also to send a non-life-threatening emergency help signal. So if I ever really get into trouble, I have a couple resources that I can draw on. What you looking at there, Jer?
Spider.
Oh.
It's a cool looking one. Got a big belly. Abdomen, if you will.
Beautiful.
Maybe it ate a lot. I feel its pain.
It's been binging on your purge.
Yeah.
Have you found videographing or documenting everything on video challenging at times? Like to stop and be like, all right, I gotta talk about this or document this.
At times, yes. One example would be friction fire. Because you I don't know, you kind of distract yourself, you take yourself away from what you're doing. And when I was doing the Tinder bundle, I had to adjust the camera, and there's a time frame in there where if you capitalize, you can get fire. If you don't, then it fails. And I failed because I had to adjust the camera. For the most part though, I've been using my head mount camera as much as possible on things like that. So that definitely makes things a lot easier. I haven't been doing the Les Stroud Survivor Man, spend twice as much energy as necessary because I'm filming the whole thing, walking up, placing a camera, starting it, walking back, and then walking to it again. So I'm not doing that. It has been a little challenging, but not as much as for someone like Les Stroud, who tons of respect for.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He does double the work
Yeah.
to get awesome shots.
In terms of the videography, though, I enjoy it. Like I like sitting in front of the camera and giving my input. It allows me to collect my thoughts and really clarify them by verbalizing them.
Yeah.
Also gives me an excuse to talk, which is good because and don't want to be clammed up all the time. It's good to hear a human voice, even if it is your own.
I got this really smart guy on the island with me.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, it's been a good experience so far. I haven't found that it's taken away, really. If anything, I find it might have enhanced the experience so far, and I know that I'll be glad of it down the road.
Do you have a checklist of techniques that you want to demonstrate for us? Yeah.
I do.
And what are some of them that are on the top of the list?
Well, you'll have to wait and see.
This is an interview, Brian. This is not some sort of like fact-finding mission.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? Well, you can talk about it now, and then when you do it, be like, as I said in my interview, I really wanted the friction fire to go well.
Well, friction fires is one of them. A few protein acquisition tricks. So we're talking traps, or we're talking makeshift weapons. I'd like to do some archery as well. A whole list of wild teas that I still want to do. There's all sorts of stuff. Just see what opportunities present themselves and what I'm able to do in the time that I have. As well, there are things that I know are not going to happen just because the conditions aren't right for them.
Okay, so when we first came and met you, there was a very obvious odor that you were emanating. So I want to know about how you kind of stay clean, like reasonably clean, or like maintain hygiene in this environment.
I don't shower. I swim occasionally, though not as much as, I don't know, not as much as I might have originally expected, because a lot of the time when you want to swim is the heat of the day, and that's when I'm sleeping. Also, it's a bit of a luxury behavior since it's just me around here. I don't mind my smell. Kind of like it, actually.
But aside from some type of hygiene,
Hygiene, it's mainly about the hands and the face then, I guess. So I fairly frequently I'll go rinse my hands off. I don't have soap of any sort. So rubbing it in the rocks and the dirt in the water to, like, dirt is not dirty. It's like it leaves these nasty looking marks on your shirt and on your hands, but like it's not going to be as full of bacteria as, say, fish guts or waste, human waste or something like that. So rubbing your hands in the dirt or in the rocks can get them cleaner by getting those particles off. Yeah, just the lake, I guess.
Lake, yeah.
And then I do have hand sanitizer as well. But
do you have like spots that you need to clean? Like face and hands.
Face and hands, yeah. And I did bring a toothbrush.
That's good.
That's
dental bills are expensive. Like, you are gonna have to go back.
Exactly.
If you spend 2 months of not cleaning your teeth, you're gonna be paying for it.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. This is a temporary trip. I don't want it to have permanent effects.
Aside from valuable life lessons,
exactly,
and knowledge acquisition,
permanent detrimental effects.
That's right. Like wooden teeth.
Yeah.
Did we ask you what you missed the most?
I did not. What I missed the most probably be the social interaction.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been nice having you guys here. Otherwise, could be just the general ease of the lifestyle. It's so easy to live in our current society. Like, there's a lot of room for improvement with our current society, but coming out here has really made me appreciate that there's a lot that we have right as well. Like, our needs are more than taken care of. Now it's to the point where our wants are so readily available that people are starting to mistake those for needs. People are thinking that their wants are their needs. And again, just circling back to it, that's part of the reason for coming out here. Like, to remind yourself, like, there are needs and there are wants. And it does not really matter if you order a double bacon cheeseburger and you get a single cheeseburger. Like, that's, suck it up, buttercup. Like, that's one of those things. It's like, you still have this to me out here, this unfathomably glorious food in front of you, and it's like, just because it's not that next step up, like that, like don't complain, like be happy for what you have.
That's a tough message to sell unless you've actually lived it, I think.
Absolutely,
right? So
and that's why I think this is the sort of thing that, not to this extent, but I think everyone should have some sort of experience like this, where they are away from these comforts and conveniences and crutches of society, where you get taken out of the easy lifestyle and you get put into something more difficult like this, because it really provides perspective and it provides a real appreciation for what we have versus what we have had in the past or what we might have.
So then, what's the most taxing mental process? Because you're saying like we have all our needs taken care of, wants become needs, but I think also having all our needs taken care of allows us to do things that we find enjoyable and like
Absolutely.
not always be looking after our basic needs.
Not even enjoyable, yes, but also enjoyable, fulfilling, but also productive. Like, you guys are both scientists, and like look at that. Like, how much of that do you think you'd be able to do if you were having to go out and forage for food every day? Like, just the equipment that you use on a day-to-day basis has been invented because people had their basic needs taken care of them, so they were able to, for generations, pursue this higher calling, this higher pursuit, I guess, of getting knowledge, which has allowed you to develop the technology to acquire more knowledge. So basically, by taking care of these basic needs, you're able to go after more lofty pursuits, and you are able to again go after leisure pursuits as well. So there's the improvement of life, and then there's the improvement of life through productive means, like science, and then there's the improvement of life through distractive means, which would be like going for a round of golf or going to the movies.
So then what's been the most taxing mental aspect of this then? Because you are constantly in I need to do something next to survive mode, right?
Yeah. Most taxing mental.
Is it the bugs, or is it like planning stuff out?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that you don't get that rest sometimes. Like, whether you want to take a break or not, you don't always have that option. Like, there are plenty of times where I would love to go to sleep. I am exhausted, I want to go to bed, but you know what, the insects won't let me, or you know what, I have fish to cook, and it's not going to last, I can't just toss it in the fridge. So, like, there are things that you need to do, and there are things that you want to do, and the needs need to come before the wants. That's just how it goes. And that can be very, very tiring when the wants are at the same time needs. Like sleep. You need to sleep in order to stay healthy and in order to make good, rational decisions.
Yeah.
So, when most people have the problem where they think, or maybe not most people, but a lot of people have the problem where they think that their wants are their needs. My problem is the opposite, where my needs become wants. That is when it becomes a real issue. When I need to do something, but there are other things, but I can't do it because there are other things that I need to do more. Fortunately, that hasn't happened too much, but it does happen on occasion.
You're saying it's like a division of needs, or a hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, it's
Maslow.
Maslow's hierarchy.
Fucking Maslow.
Yeah, it's priorities is what it is. There are some things that are more urgent than others, and that's a constant process, prioritizing, deciding what is more important. Because just generally speaking, you have less time out here. Everything takes longer, and you have less time to do things as a result. So you have to prioritize what is most important to get done right now, and then you go about doing it. And there are other things that might need to get done, but they might just have to wait.
What has surprised you most about yourself?
About myself.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. What has surprised you most, or what have you learned the most? Surprise first.
Surprised me most about myself. I guess how little energy I have. That's got to be something. That was not something that I was something that I was expecting when I came in. Obviously, with less food and less sleep, you're going to have less energy. But just the degree to which I have less energy has been a surprise. So that's been something that I've had to adapt to. And again, with the you recognize the needs. Like, I would like to go down to the end of the lake to see what the fishing is like there. However, I don't have the energy to go down and then battle back against a hard south wind. So instead, I am going to stick around here and fish. But yeah, I guess that would be what surprised me the most, is the energy level and the loss of energy that's come with this lifestyle. And then what was the other part of that question?
What have you learned the most? Or no? Was that it? Learned?
What have I learned the most about myself?
About yourself, yeah. You've been talking about like mind state and all that too, right?
Yeah, I've been pleased with, generally speaking, with my mentality. I find that I've had some low days, and I'm able to recognize that, and I'm able to correct it. Now this is because this isn't something that this isn't my first time doing this. I've done this before. I won't claim to be extremely experienced, but I do have a decent bit of experience under my belt. And if I find that I am foundering, I will go to some techniques that I've developed before. One of them is simply sit down and drink some water and think. Why am I feeling this way? What's causing it? How can I fix it? And that's something that I've done on a number of occasions, and it just forces you to evaluate the situation, identify the problems, prioritize, and then go about fixing them. You got to stay very, very practical, very pragmatic, and just take care of business. So yeah, I've been pleased with the mentality that, for the most part, I've been able to maintain during this process. You trying to get smoke, or you trying to get fire?
Fire.
Don't put green wood in.
Do your interview, Brian.
Ask me questions, Jer.
I have been asking you questions, Brian.
Put some of that stuff on. You got it for a reason.
Well, this is my survival technique. Where there is smoke, maybe there's fire.
Where there's smoke, there are not mosquitoes.
Exactly. So you picked Northern Ontario. Right. If you were to do this again in another location, where would you pick and why?
I would love to do Eastern Ontario because that's what I grew up with and that's the land that I'm familiar with. However, I picked Northern Ontario because the lack of people. And I have been seeing people here, but it's far less frequent than you would see if you were down on Dalhousie Lake. Because yeah, basically I'm up north because the south is so populated. And the further north you go, the less populated you go, but the less desirable, in my opinion, the land becomes. That's going to go in a second. So yeah, that's why I'm up here. I would love to try further south where there are more plant species that I'm familiar with, where the habitat is a little more agreeable in terms of the temperatures and the bugs and the fishing, and all these things are more favorable.
Is fishing more favorable in Eastern Ontario?
Actually, probably not, just because of the fishing pressure. Fishing has been pretty good here, which is something that's been very, very nice for me. I haven't had too many days without fish. But yeah, I'd like to try Eastern Ontario. In terms of further locations, getting a little more exciting, I'd like to try something on the ocean. That'd be interesting.
Ooh, that'd be tough.
That'd be an entirely different ballgame.
Water.
Something I'm not familiar with. Yeah, freshwater you'd have to find. And freshwater is always got to be one of the absolute top priorities. So, yeah.
Yeah, 3 days with it? Without it? 4 days?
Yeah, well.
Like reasonably functional.
Yeah, well, if you're in the Arctic, you're going to want to find shelter in one as well.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's so that'd be something that'd be interesting in trying. Would be something by the ocean.
Vancouver Island is pretty cool.
Yeah. Newfoundland.
Oh, talking that ocean.
Yeah.
Would you do this again, do you think?
To this extent, no. I would not do a trip this long by myself just for my own sake. I would do it for the sake of a job. I would do it for the sake of if I was on a TV show or something like that. But I would definitely do like a week long, something less extensive, more intensive. I would do that. I would do something with people. Like I could do 2 months with 10 people. That would be something that I would do. Just because, again, you get the sharing of the workload and you get the social aspect, which is really nice. So something just like this, I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm going to look back on this experience for the rest of my life. Success! Now get some more wood on there before it goes out.
All I wanted.
So yeah, boil your water fast.
So I'm very glad that I'm doing this, but this is going to be the only time I do something like this for the reasons that I'm doing this. Like I said, I would do something more intensive, less extensive, or I would do something more social.
Yeah, I think doing it with a lot of people,
it would make a huge difference.
It would, but then you'd have the other obstacle of group chemistry, group dynamics,
This is true.
individual personalities.
Different challenges.
But your actual like needs in terms of food and shelter and
Basic needs would be more taken care of. The social needs would be more of the question. And it could go very well, it could go very badly.
you do Brian's like survival to fulfill Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, this is the basic level, and we move up from there.
What types of insects have you been eating?
Moth. Just the moth so far.
What kind of insects do you encounter and are any life-threatening or threatening to your health?
That's another nice thing about northern Ontario is you don't get the poisonous species that you would get somewhere further south. So the brown recluse spider, I think, might be up here, which is a nasty bite that can give you some ill effects. I haven't encountered any of those. I haven't encountered ticks, fortunately. I know there are some up here, but they're not as common as further south. And down around the Kingston area where these guys are from, Lyme disease is a big issue, but neither Roy and I have had tick encounters so far. It's just been the biting insects. So black flies, mosquitoes, deer flies, horse flies. Horse flies and deer flies have not been so bad. I'm gonna get burned with this fire.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to smoke you out of the campsite.
Yeah, you're
squatter.
pushing me away. Black flies and deer flies deer flies and horse flies are starting to come in. They're not so bad so far. Black flies were quite bad at first, and they've started to thin. So they, anyone who's been up north in the springtime knows about black flies. Black flies, little black flies, always the black fly. No matter where you go, I'll die with the black flies. Picking my bones up in North Ontario, up in North Ontario. And that song is written for a reason. They are extremely thick and they are persistent. Fortunately, they go away at night, unlike the mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are my least favorite biting insect. I wasn't sure before I came up here. They were at the top, and now they have solidified their place. Just their persistence. They don't go away all night. They're out during the day. They are thick as all hell, and they are, not only do they bite, but they are do an excellent job of annoying as well. They make the noise, and one or two, like some people that I am familiar with, sitting around a campfire, get 3 mosquitoes. Oh, they're so annoying! I can't stand these mosquitoes. Talk to these guys when the background noise is all just sounds like a highway in the distance.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
It's constant, and you know when you get in your shelter at the end of the day and you can hear that all directions, all around you, it's going to be a bad night. They also they buzz your face. You can feel the wind from their wings on your face. You can feel them bumping into your face, and it just feels like someone taking a bunch of feathers and draping them across your face and neck when you're trying to sleep, and then they land as like a pinprick. So mosquitoes are definitely my least favorite of the biting insects now. They've solidified their place at the top.
Have you had any encounters with ants?
Ants, yes, but not negative encounters. Like, I've been aware of them, and I have sought to avoid them. So I haven't had any problems with ants, but there are a few anthills around here. And when I was setting up my my fire ring of the day that you guys came and picked me up, like I had my supplies in an ant pile, and I just had to quickly move them and brush a few off. So that was not a big issue.
I've been chewed up by ants.
No.
Sleeping on without knowing on an ant pile out in the open.
Yeah.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
I guess to getting into your food is an issue as well, right?
Yeah. But no, I haven't had that problem.
Is the bear barrel your main way of protecting your food, or do you have other techniques as well?
I have the bear barrel. I've been working on this birch bark food storage container for about a week, maybe more now. That's just one of those things, like what I was talking about with the priorities. It's not the highest priority, so it just hasn't been getting done. But I've been working on it, and it'll take me 2 months, but I'll get it done eventually. So that'll be something that is going to be elevated off the ground and have a lid on it. So that won't be a foolproof container by any means, but it'll be better than nothing. It'll be something to put my food in. And yeah, as I've said, not in this interview, but previously, if there were raccoons or martins or bears, that would not hold up. If it were on the ground, it would not hold up to the ants or other insects. But it's for my purposes, it should be all right. Hopefully, where I plan on putting it in the end.
Do you have anything you want to have accomplished before your parents show up?
Yes, there's my my little mini trip up to the next lake, a couple lakes north of here. I want to get a snapping turtle. That's a goal of mine.
And the shell.
Shell, yes. A shell would be a nice trophy to bring home.
If you caught one by now, we could have brought it home for you.
There you go. Other than that, yeah, just knock a few of the items off my checklist. I've done quite well with the teas so far. I've got a few more that I want to do. Yeah, nothing too specific. I like to smoking fish is something that I'd really like to do. Now that was something we obviously attempted last night without. It was poor execution, so we weren't able to get it done. But
what would you do differently for smoking fish?
What I would do differently is I would either catch the fish the previous day, or else I would start at dawn, catch a bunch of fish in the morning, and then start on the smoking process like around noon and just do it all afternoon. We started in the evening, and unless we were going to pull an all-nighter, it wasn't going to happen. And also got the tripod there, and as I said last night, it would be ideally done with green hides wrapped around it to trap the smoke in. We don't have that option, so the smoke escapes and it's far less efficient.
Can you make something out of like rocks or clay or something like that? And just,
Maybe
like a chimney, sort of?
Maybe we'll talk about building up the fire pit and directing it.
Yeah, could do maybe like green boughs or something like that. I'd be worried about those burning.
You could even just like dig into the ground more.
Yeah, there are things that you could do for sure.
Because there's a lot of ash here, you could probably dig that up even.
Yeah. Cool.
Huh. Where's your best foot spa for my dirty feet?
Right down by the water.
Right down by the water.
Well, unless you guys have any more urgent questions, I'm happy with that.
That's quite a long interview.
No, this was good. Thank you very much. Well, thank you gentlemen for coming to visit. I'll get the hell off my site.
You got it.